Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. As always, I'm having my little hot cocoa here. It's been a chilly week in Mexico, Caribbean. That's why. Hence the sweater. But anyway, without further ado, I want to talk about something interesting that came to my awareness, I suppose. That I seem to just downloaded this stuff. That's what happens sometimes to me. Because, like I said, I don't read books. I tend to not watch videos. I would like it, anything that I post in this video, to be just pure my own observations and realizations that come from within. I know that they may coincide with a lot of people because whoever's coming from the same place gonna see the same thing. It's not a thing, but this way I want to keep it as pure as possible, without tainting it from anything information of outside that may potentially contain some lie sandwich within the traditional CII techniques, sandwich one lie in 5 truths, right? So 4 truths, one lie. That's the technique of how to program people. And so therefore it's something that corrupt can enter into your system. 1 second, just put it on charge. Something corrupt can enter your system when you are in agreement, like somebody says the truth and you're like, oh yeah, and then there's this openness in your mind, and then just one lie comes in because you've already been excited and you're open. This one lie comes in, and then of course one little lie ruins the whole thing. And this is why you cannot go from information from the outside. It has to arise from within. Truth cannot be thought, cannot be found outside. It can only be found from within. This is why everything that I say here, it is an invitation to see whether whatever I'm talking about is right or not. Right? Ideally speaking, that's what it is. And you probably, as I'm talking, you may even have same realizations coming up to you as well. It's not unusual for that to happen. But anyway, let's just focus here. In this video, I want to talk about primarily with my fellow gentlemen, if you will. Of course, it's not forbidden for a woman to watch this video, of course not. But it's primarily going to be masculine perspective on everything that's going on in the world and the feminine principle itself. This is very important. What I'm gonna say here, it's been sort of like I've been through a lot of self-torture in order to discover this gem. And if I'm going to communicate this gem, you better go look for it too. I'm like basically diving in and saying like, look, there are pearls there, and then you go get your own. Okay. So now, firstly, I want to address about this tendency that you see it's going on in a matrix world, these conflicts, these wars, everything that's going on over there, right? And the thing about the matrix is completely scripted and it's completely predictable. Seemingly there's multiple figures there, but they are eliciting one same will, and if you will, it's like a will of the demiurge, if you will, and it's that the tree of knowledge. Anybody who's acting from an ego is gonna want the same thing in a complementary way. Like if anybody is acting from ego, some psychopath runs, has the idea of how to make order in the world, right? Because that's all they want to do, right? They say, well, we want peace in the Middle East, like they really want that order. I mean, look at what everybody wants. They want certain type of order that benefits them, and but the differences are that people who have a lower order, like lower order egos, I suppose, of course they're going to be dominated by the higher order egos, and the higher order ego wants to be God. That's what it wants. And it's sort of like, because everything is scripted, everything is predictable. It seems like a chaotic thing and conflicts and stuff. This is all scripted theater. Everything's predictable. And the idea of how this matrix developed and all these conflicts, and they trying to have this one world order, if you will, this AI surveillance states and all the different, you know what's going on, right? Like that's what they're trying to do, because from their perspective, from the man in a psychopathic state of consciousness, I mean, this word psychopath is just like, I don't really like it because it's used from the perspective of psychology, and to me all the psychology is just nonsense and never helped anybody. There are structures of consciousness that are important to understand of how patterns work, but that's pretty much where it ends. It's just patterns. Okay. And psychopath is the word, is like a psychologically apathic or whatever, right? It's a person with apathy. Okay. And they function outside of consequences of karma. Basically, this is why they do all these actions, but they don't receive karma yet, right? And therefore, they are actually Muppets. They think that they're in control, but they're Muppets for this thing called the demiurge or the archons, or something that is a structure of consciousness as a spiritual, on the spiritual level. I've talked about this, and it is separation of eros and logos. And when the eros and logos are in separation, there cannot be a harmonious emotion or thought or pattern be born. It has to run on the conflict and imposing on this tyrannical order. Anyway, hopefully I'm making sense here, but the message and the moral of the story is that everything's in the matrix and scripted. It's unfolding exactly how it's supposed to be, and we're not supposed to lose any kind of energy fighting it. Because for the butterfly to be born, first there has to be a caterpillar. And so that's what they're doing. And on another thought, for example, what Trump is doing, what these people in the AI industry are doing, how they get all the finances, they seem to be all in cahoots for one drive, and that to create that order in the world, okay, from their perspective. And that's a matrix perspective of order. It's a complete and total surveillance, and it's a great order for people with no souls, for the NPCs. And so you look at this, of course this is not a paradise, it's not the ideal plan for the world, but this is right now what is necessary to create that type of order, because without it, you'll have things that are way worse. Okay, so basically it's the order that is imposed through force. It's a dark way, tyrannical way of imposing order through military force. This is why they have to have military power and leverage. And so only when there are these consequences will a person obey that structure. Only when there are these consequences. And what kind of person would only obey the natural order of life, or whatever the structure is supposed to be, upon leverage. Somebody who's just, completely lost, out of whack, and dangerous. So this is why I'm not against what they're doing. It's a type of matrix order which are necessary to how to say it. When the matrix is in the highest order, what happens, you create a hive mind and the compliance that may be forced compliance, but nevertheless compliance. And the person who is subject to that, supposed to be subject to that. Because if you let it loose away from that order, that person is going to create havoc. Okay? And the person becomes dangerous. I'm trying to say they're very dark people, and because of their darkness, there has to be a moral code imposed on it. And so that's not a bad news. Anybody who can be controlled by the matrix should be controlled by the matrix. And in fact, they're doing you a favor by putting all the criminals under arrest, and wanting that total surveillance and stuff like that. This is good stuff. You have to do this, otherwise the world is sort of like not safe. Okay, saying that, this is not, of course, the final vision of the world, but it is necessary. You see what I'm trying to say? The highest order of the matrix is not evil, but the highest order of the matrix is to contain all the possibility of the evil. You see? And so still in the end of at the end, it's just the world of ego, right? And only the people with no soul will be happy in this world, of course. And you don't want people with no soul not to belong to the hive mind and being loose. They need to be ordered. That's the take that I take right now. Based on my experience of what I've seen, I'm not against on this agenda that is going on right now. Before I was, but then once I saw how people operate and I saw how people operate on a 3D level, which is just physical, on a 4D level, which becomes astral, on the 5D level, which is causal, and then on the 6D level, which is spiritual. Actually, only 60 people do touch the real spirit anyway, directly. But besides the point, that's real. These are the levels of consciousness of development. And that's just the way it is. It's a fact. That's something that I've observed and saw and tested it out too. I'm not taking this decision lightly, because I've dealt with the people of the lowest caliber and the highest caliber and watched their patterns of behaviors very carefully. And I saw what is possible for me to alchemize and what is not, basically, where it's just wasted energy. Right? And by the way, like I said before, alchemy and devotion, they go together. Alchemy is a masculine approach to spirit. Devotion is a feminine approach to spirit. It's just like devotion is a capacity for surrender, which sometimes is necessary, and alchemy is the capacity for courage, which sometimes is necessary. And so in between those two, you get the most and the best possible power and influence on your reality. Okay, so I just want to finish this thing real quick. So the matrix is going to continue the way it's continuing, and is going to create this control and order and there's going to be subjects of the matrix as well, but ideally that's not going to be you. Okay, because like I said before, matrix and holistics can coexist together for the time being, just like caterpillar and butterfly cells exist together for the time being, but there's a boundary there, right? So now you as somebody who has not chosen to live under the umbrella of the matrix, you have to look at the matrix as something to use. You have to use the matrix. You cannot be contra matrix. You see what I'm trying to say? Because if you're contra matrix, then you're going to be principled in the wrong way. Because you can see, well, out of the principle, I'm not going to use this, because if I use this tool that is, belongs to the matrix, then I'm gonna sort of like, betray myself. Well, no, you're not betraying yourself. You're using matrix, and that is correct. You have to use the matrix for your own advantage, which is, what is your own advantage that is not the matrix agenda? Is holistics. And holistics is structured, you have these villages and you have the cities, and the cities cannot be holistic. They have to be matrix. It's just a fact. And the villages are usually, the life is too hard. So what you can do is to have something in between. You use the technology from the city and the structure of the village, and so you can have like this, they say 150 people as maximum that is necessary, that you can sustain the holistic environment without police, without conflict, and relying upon the alchemical approach to life and understanding of how life works and how to resolve the conflict. Not that conflict is not going to arise, but every time it arises, how to resolve it on sort of like a tribe level, okay? Without going in too much into... So everybody is your family, it's your tribe. And our consciousness is structured that is very likely this, you cannot have more than 144 friendly beings that are really behind you as one, right? Not the false way, but really, really like you stem from the same source. It's not demiurge, but Eon, if you will, or the world of, I don't know, what is the word for the alive matrix that's always changing and creating the structures that are necessary based on that particular moment, particular time, spontaneity, right? Like, I don't know what you call it, but that's the the holistics and the matrix. It's real. It's the run by the white passion, nuclear fusion, and run by the dark passion, nuclear fission, right? That's the leverage that everybody's using to conquer the world, right? It's like, ultimately, if you disagree, I can destroy you, right? That's the dark passion. And this is why you see these people, these leaders, they seem empowered and strong and everything, but they all run on the dark passion because they have leverage. This is why. But if you take that leverage away, you have to understand that these are ego beings. You take the leverage away, there's nothing really there. But it's okay. We need these people like titans to eventually come up with this system of matrix that, see what I'm trying to say, the matrix system that enforces this order. Like I said before, I'm no longer against this because I realize this is a tool for us to use, right? And the caterpillar is necessary. You have to have that situation going on in order for this to be separation, first of all, of the butterfly cells from the caterpillar cells. And so then it's going to be the matrix world is not going to be contra the holistics world. Okay? A village can have its own order, and and these private villages, if you will, they're not going to be, because it's private, it's not going to be sort of like against the matrix law, because the private sector will exist, and this private sector will turn into what we call holistics. This is where people, rules for thee, but not for me. That's what's gonna go. That is where it's gonna happen. That the people in the holistics world is not gonna live on the same rules. We're gonna have our own private transport. We're gonna have these villages all over the world, our own private network. There's going to be exchange with no money. If you want to travel to another place, you travel to that specific village and they travel to your village. Therefore, there's no need for any kind of monetary exchange. There is this type of the network of these holistic villages, right? That is existing in the parallel of the matrix, which is a public world and a private world. Okay? And so the people who are enforcing the matrix, they're working for us. You have to understand that they're doing us a favor by imposing that forced order onto people who are otherwise are completely batshit crazy if you let them be. Okay? Now, in the previous video, I said about this idea of creating the boundary for yourself, which then you're going to have to be enforcing. And that boundary has to be reinforced through the energy. And those, like I said, there's two types of energies that can exist, right? There's one through fission, another one from fusion. I call them dark passion, light passion. Okay? So now, if you impose the boundary in your life and you say, well, I'm not going to watch porn anymore, okay? You impose the boundary. Now, will you be able to sustain that boundary? And to sustain that boundary, there's going to be pressure applied to you to alchemize, right? To alchemize that thing that's going to start building up in your system, to turn that dark into light passion. Because if you don't, that dark passion is going to take over and it's just going to break that boundary, right? Or it's just going to find another way and say, well, I'm not going to be watching porn, but then I'm just going to be sexually promiscuous, if you will, right? The dark passion finds a way unless you alchemize it. This is why just setting the boundary is not enough. You see? Just setting the boundary is not enough. So that now brings me into, from the global perspective, which it's moving towards centralization of the society, and we have to let this happen. Okay, I know that people are kind of fighting against this and whatnot, but it has to happen. That's going to be the hive mind world. Now, instead of fighting this, the people who do not want to belong to this, they have to start living life under a different model. Okay? They have to go independent and start linking up with other people who are independent. And create a private sector, which is protected by the matrix itself. Do you see how it works? Because matrix cannot. People in power will always have the loopholes and these areas in the private spaces where they are not subject to the control that they're imposing, because they don't want to live like that. By that law, and matrix is pretty much impose laws through leverage. By that law, living in the private sector, you are protected as well. Okay? And that's just like generally speaking. Of course, there's going to be other type of laws, but the matrix itself must have a protection for the holistics and must not see as anything threatening to it, because it's not threatening to it. Okay? But because matrix is the system that is eating itself kind of thing, right? because people going to be living in the matrix who have soul going to want to leave it, and people who don't have soul, they're going to have to they want to stay, right? Because they will like it, like, you know, they like to be controlled, they like to be told what to do, because that's where they function from. And so if you put them in an uncertainty situation where they have to guide themselves in life, they're lost. They start becoming violent and aggressive and all that stuff, right? So you have to order the people who are like that. Okay, I don't see anything wrong with that. I used to see that. I had this illusion, and I thought that, like, well, we're all equal, we're all the same, and we all have capacity for this, you know, inner guidance, following a northern star and stuff like that. No, it's not true. It is absolutely not true. So, as I said before, the hive mind is happening, and it has to happen, and this is a type of order. But it's not going to be, you know, the order is going to be just when the matrix. The world is not just matrix. There's, like I said, the real world is a holistics where it's going to exist as well. Okay, and so you already can see that you don't have to belong to the public sector, right? This is like, there's nothing interesting in the public sector anymore. It's the same story, same patterns. It's just like nonsense. Like, you know, belonging on a Twitter and posting stuff and interacting, it's just a waste of fucking time. You know, it's nonsense. Including Instagram and Facebook. It's just absolute bullshit. This is not natural. This is not how we are structured to connect with other people. And so you have to build your own tribe, your own network, your own private network that's so strong that is sustainable and luxurious, right? Like luxurious. You can have like luxurious life with very little money, right? When I say very little money, luxurious life with the necessity to spend very little money. You may have tons of it, but you won't need to spend a lot to sustain your luxury life. So this is the importance of creating your private tribe. Okay, this is how you have to start looking at the world. They say, okay, who's in my tribe growing this type of food? Who's, you know, who can I rely upon there? Because if you say like, well, I'm going to go to the store and buy it, that's public sector. That's matrix. Not saying there's anything wrong with doing that. You can still do that. But this, you know, you're not going to want to participate in this, because there's going to be, you know, what I'm trying to say here is that if you do not enjoy submitting your will into this matrix way of doing things, you know, staying in a line for no fucking reason, you know, and interacting with robots and all of this stuff, right, at the corporate world. If you don't want that, you have to have your own tribe and sustain yourself in a way that makes you happy. Just from there, it's very important, right? So okay, so this is what I'm trying to say, is that logically and almost mechanistically, matrix will always open up the space for the holistics. It just cannot do it otherwise. You see, it just can't do otherwise. And so whatever is happening in the world is a natural process, and then the only word that we really like are in is a spiritual world. This is what I realized. You know, I've really looked closely into this. You know, the use of violence and the leverage and all that stuff, and I saw that it's very simple. Your energy will come through fission or fusion. That's the thing, right? They're both sources of energy. I mean, they're kind of valid, if you will. But It's a matrix life and a holistic life. If you go through the dark passion, you can have certain type of position and power in the matrix, but you're actually not really free, because you're always going to be relying on that, on specific matrix interactions, so for you keep receiving that energy. This is why, like, if I could give an example, some people who rely upon this energy, that they need conflict to keep on going, when the conflict disappears, they go super depressed. This is why there's this tendency with people who are in the military, they leave the military, and without conflict, without that discipline, without this illusion of enemy and all these things that ego necessary is necessary for the ego to survive, the ego starts dying. And most people, well, not necessarily most, but a lot of people just go back and say, well, and so sustain their ego. Now, that just because the ego is dying is not bad. There is a way to go through this process and let it go, and have a new passion in your life that is not dark. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to say. Use the matrix for your own advantage and build your holistic tribe. You have to do this. And this way, you're not really in the conflict. You see what I'm trying to, you see how you play this game? You're playing the game on the side of nature and how everything works. You're not fighting with the reality for the caterpillar to develop, right? That's kind of stupid almost. You have to let it happen. So, like, to going out and resisting this, world order that is right now being imposed by Trump and all these other leaders, that they're trying to have this peace in the Middle East and whatever, and they will have the type of peace, but it's not going to be alive. It's going to be that type of peace. It's going to be enforced type of peace. But it is necessary right now. It is necessary right now. And then from there, because, like I said, it's not sustainable. What they're going to create is not going to be sustainable. And the people are going to be leaking into the private sector, growing their private sector that they cannot control, because it's part of it, you see. This is why the caterpillar cells, it's the same organism as a butterfly cells. So that organism creates the boundary, and the caterpillar says, don't cross that boundary to attack the butterfly cells, you see. It's happening naturally. Do you see what I'm trying to say? And the only real war is to keep this order going, to keep this organizing principle going. This is good news. This is not bad. Because people in power right now, they do not want, they actually do want peace. They just, of course, they don't approach it in a, because it's not possible right now at this point to approach it through the holistic way, and it's just not possible. So they have to first create the boundary, just like you in a personal life. First you have to create the boundary, and then the pressure to alchemize arises. So this is what they're doing right now. They're imposing the boundaries onto people, and the energies start sort of rebelling, and then you, as an alchemist, you feel that pressure to alchemize, and you create something good out of it and use it for your holistic environment. You grow your garden on this, it's like you grow your garden on the healing of the suffering of the people who are, see what I'm trying to say? Well, I'm not going to go too deep onto this one, okay, on this video, because it's already 34 minutes. But I'm just going to stay here. The essential message of this particular part of this video is that you do not feel in a conflict with this matrix order, it's not necessary to feel in the conflict. Okay? I know that, you know, what I'm saying would be like putting a lot of faith in that that's indeed the caterpillar cells that we're going to turn into butterfly cells, but that is how consciousness works. I put a lot of faith in the law of consciousness, on the way everything works. Of course, man, like that's just because, you know, I'm consciousness, and so everything that I see within myself, it's, you can take it to the bank. It encash it. It works. So now going into more like a personal perspective, which now is what becomes important is your relationship with, as a man, to the feminine. By the way, before I go into this, I just want to say something, okay? Which was bugging me for quite some time, torturing me until I figured this out. Look, there's this idea, there's this tendency to think, or that's the message that's been being sent, that you are the creator of your reality. Okay? Now, that whatever you want, whatever you imagine, that's the reality that's going to happen. This is the premise, right? That you're pretty much in total control over the reality. Okay? Now, if you're going to take this path, what's going to happen is you're going to follow the dark passion way. You're going to create the ego. Because look at the premise of this idea. It says that you are the sole creator of the reality, which means you're fucking alone in the universe. That's what it means. And so if you follow this idea, you're going to follow the idea of the ego. And you're going to have everything you want, and you're going to feel alone. Because you broke the principle of reciprocity. And you, as a man, you have a role to play in this reality. And it is about, it's a creative force, it's creative power. You, as a man, your role is to build up that light passion, which is real power, and use it according to the right principles. This is your role as a man. But you cannot have light passion through forced means. That's the dark passion. Because the dark passion must submit the feminine. This is the thing, when a woman are submissive in the soul, the men are tyrannical in the soul, and that is ego, dark passion. This is this dark couple in the Matrix. I can't remember their names right now, but you know what I'm talking about. And then the Neo and Trinity, that's her name, right? Is the light couple and the dark couple, and you see the two. And the dark couple, the man has, through psychological and emotional force, submitted the woman. This is how he derives his energy. And Neo has no of such ideas. The freedom is the principle from where the Neo derives the energy. Okay? He doesn't have to worry that Trinity is going to go away, because he represents the organizing principle under which the feminine organizes automatically by itself without any force necessary. Okay? The difference between this type of woman, submissive in the heart and devotional in the heart, these are the dark feminine principle and the light feminine principle. Okay? Now, for you as a man, and living this world in this, reality in this world, you encounter all sorts of women. Okay. Now, ultimately, the highest principle of a man is to do everything for her soul and do nothing for her ego. If you create this internal boundary, it's going to create a maximum intensity, but it's going to create the highest order of principle within you, and it's going to create very, very high pressure for the alchemy for you. But if you can defend that thesis, that everything for her soul, nothing for her ego, you're gonna create that internal boundary. Okay. And it may come out as some sort of a type of exorcism, right? Because this katana sword, this truth that you cut very, very, very sharply, and when there's no room for the ego to move, there might be some, which of course there always is, rebellion, because the ego is dying. But you as a man, you have to be okay for the woman to go through this process of this exorcism. If she's devotional, if she's open up and devotional enough, that darkness in her is going to die. And it may be very cathartic and maybe sometimes even violent process. But you as a man, you cannot give up on you have to remain resilient on that truth. Everything for your soul, nothing for your ego. And after this process goes away, there's actual letting go of that thing, and it's a type of kind of exorcism that you've done, which is a type of I suppose like a couple's alchemy, and devotion and whatnot. But it is real deal. Okay. Now, what I'm talking about is, of course, the real deal. I'm not like writing a book for you and showing you and saying like, this is how you have to behave right now, right? Like the women are like this. The latest thing in store is like this. You have to do like this. It's just a bunch of ideas and boundaries of how to, be a man, but nothing changes in your soul. You see? This is why, like, you don't really need these books. What you do need is because, look, it's just these books are just writing about the control of your own behavior. It doesn't do anything for your soul. You see? And for the Matrix people, maybe it's okay. But if you want to build your tribe, and if you have your woman, sons, demons, if you will, that's the way. And by the way, it's the exact same demon that is in you, right? Because if you are flexible on this particular principle, then that's your demon. And this is why, a demon in a woman is sustaining the demon in the man, and so on. So when you're doing the alchemy, she's doing devotion, and so you play your roles, and that cathartic process happens, and there's a real release from that demiurge, from that draconic force, and the true trust and freedom and love that is then taking place, and vulnerability and real love. Okay. It requires courage in a man and surrender in a woman on a soul level. Now, that part of a woman, of course, is not real her, because what's a real her is her soul, not her ego. This is a very definitive fact. Ego is very clever, and she may insist that this is part of me, this is me, you have to love me as I am. This is just a fucking bullshit trap of the ego. That's not her. Absolutely not her. And if you believe that it's her, then, you know, it's, you know, this is why sometimes women are so confusing for a man, but they're not really confusing, because she can now only act from her soul, which is innocent and pure and real, or from her ego. It's manipulative bullshit. This is just, they have, you know, that thing. And some people say, well, some of the darkness, it's okay. No, none of the darkness is okay. I mean, you may not eliminate all the darkness at once, but every time the darkness comes to the surface, it must be alchemized. You see, there's no negotiation there, because momentary pain is preferable over the sustainable suffering. This is why this tendency in the relationships with people men accept, which is never acceptable, really, because you have to be the man of alchemy and not accept this. And when this happens, you have to go through, you know, do an exorcism of your woman, if you will, and it's going to be hard and strong and powerful and intense, but it's going to last for a couple of hours and whatnot, but then it's gone, and then you basically bought yourself happiness for the year or two, so to speak. If you don't do this, there's going to be continuous little fucking sufferings that happening over and over and over again, that runs on, you know, this dark passion, you know, this matrix type of relationship. So everything, you do everything for her soul and nothing for her ego. You give nothing for her ego. Not a thing. You have to be totally fine for her going through all sorts of tantrums and, you know, and rebellions and all of whatever she has to go through, but you remain strong in the boundary, because it's not her. You have to understand, it's not her. There's her there, sort of like, you know, shied and pushed away, and there's this demonic force that is acting through her. That is not her. Don't confuse that. Don't think that is her. So this is the way to completely slice it clear cut and to have a happy relationship, but not without slaying some demons. A real love does not happen in this reality without slaying some demons first. And it's not through the fucking couples therapy, it's not through psychologists, nothing. It does not look fucking pretty. It's you know, sometimes it looks like a psychedelic experience, right? But if a man is strong and courageous and does not budge on the truth, and a woman is strong and courageous and does not budge on the love and devotion, that shit is eliminated. You can eliminate that from your life for real. And the structure in your soul changes, the structure in her soul changes, and only then something real starts happening that is spontaneously connecting you two. That's real love. Okay? And if one party is not going all in, if the man is not fully courageous, if the woman is not fully devotional, it will not happen. Okay? And now that brings me to this idea that you're not a one, you know, sole controller of the universe that some teachers were communicating. And I'm sure that they did not intend that to happen, but it did, and it was very important for him to clarify. And they perhaps they did try to clarify this, but you know, ego just grabs this idea and runs with it. But I never felt right that I'm alone in the universe and then it's all up to me how everything's going to unfold. It was never right with me. I tried to take this, but every time I would take it, I would feel dark. And then I would lose this light passion. And I would feel like in a state of like conqueror, you know? And it's like, fuck, I don't, no. It feels like I've lived this life fucking before and it was horrific. I'm not going there. So I refuse to be that I am the sole ruler of the universe. And I end up taking the view that I'm not, but as a man, I can play my part. I can do the best thing that I can do in my alchemy, can best thing that I can do in my magic, and can best thing that I can do in my mind. This is what I can do. But I cannot force the outcomes. That I have to leave to the devotional aspect of the universe. You know, I can learn how to dance, I can be a great dancer, but if I invite a woman and she says no for whatever reason, I cannot force that to happen, because then it's just going to be me moving her like a rag doll, right? And that's just like abominable. That's not love. So by this premise, which is obvious, you know, if you really look at it, it is obvious that the life is not you create everything you want by yourself. The life is a type of dance, and you perform as best as you can. But wherever the openness is going to happen in the universe, this is not up to you. You have to let the universe to decide that, and then the life is going to be more gentle and elegant and not forced. You see? Now, if you as a man, for example, have a situation where you play your cards right, you know that you've done right, your alchemy, your magic, everything right. You're not doing forced magic. If you want to have a relationship, you imagine the relationship, but you don't force a specific person to be that relationship, right? And even if you meet a person that seems to be completely resonating on all the levels, but if there's no agreement there, which is it is necessary to you can resonate the person on all the levels, on soul, mind, and body, and still one of the people may not agree to engage in this type of relationship. That agreement must happen. This is what I was looking at like very carefully and thinking, okay, well, if everything matches, why things are not going on? It's because there's lack of agreement. Okay? The agreement is very important. And the choice of the agreement is very important. And you as a man, you cannot force that agreement. It's like bringing a woman, you know, through potentially exciting experience of jumping out of the airplane, you know, with the parachute and whatnot, just as like as a metaphor, or inviting to a dance, it's the same thing. And pushing her out of it. It's not going to be real. She has to make her own decision to step out. Then you are actually in an elegant dance with the reality. You see? Because you're saying, I'm not alone, but as a man, I'm not alone in this universe. You know, I'm not one soul controlling power. I'm a part of it. I can create whatever I have to create from my side, and I have to let the feminine principle to respond to it in the way it wants to respond to it, without any kind of force needed. Right? And if my passion is flowing one way, and then there's an openness in like one woman, then you engage with that woman. If you sustain the light passion, it's very important to sustain the light passion. You see? If it's not flowing with a specific woman because she doesn't have the agreement, she's not saying yes to the dance that you invited, and she can see that you're a great dancer, whatnot, but she's still saying no for whatever reason, that you cannot try and you know, this thing that I want to communicate very clearly, because I see that happening and I see that tendency in my consciousness, therefore I can see that it's happening in many other men's consciousness as well, is this thing that you feel something real with a woman, but there's no agreement there from her, and the lingering of a man in that space. This is wrong, because you keep the openness where you keep your light shining where there's no openness. You're wasting energy, and this is why you may become like lose the motivation and lack energy and not want to do things. It's because you are shining a light where there's no openness, your light is not flowing, right? This is lack of wisdom. And so then there's a blockage of your passion, and your passion must always be flowing. You have to always, through alchemy, you generate this white passion, and you feel where this passion is flowing in all the aspects of your life, where it feels like, when you think about this, okay, it feels like this, that's passionate, the white passion, you go for this, right? And so if you don't do this, then your passion may get dark, because then you're insisting that this particular person has to be, and then there's going to be also some third parties there. And then if you keep on insisting it, then it's going to turn into the lust-based connection, and you're going to lose the white or the light passion. The passion is going to turn dark. And it's not necessary. You as a man have a total right to keep on having that light flowing wherever there's openness in the universe. And you can feel that openness. It may look like, I don't know, without giving like too many examples, but you can feel it. You can if you are, all it takes is just think about the woman, feel her, and see if there's openness or not. If there's no resonance there, then it's not there. But there's always going to be in your life, every day, there's going to be something there that is resonating. And this is where you put your attention. This is where you put your energy, because you're going to enjoy that passion. And it may be just like, hang out with the female friend and whatnot. But if that's what feels light and passionate, then you do it, right? It can be like a sensual passion. And you trust that the only thing that you can do is you can build up that light, and then you have to move your light where the universe is taking you. Okay? And so there's this trust that has to take place on your side as a man. Okay? And so then as a man, you're almost like a scanning and feeling where's this openness, and that's all you can do without forcing the outcome. I think this is what like Bashar was saying, which is, Bashar is meant to be like a channeled entity through this guy, but the principles that they're communicating, I discovered the same principles within consciousness. It seems that these are universal principles. And one of the things that he's saying as a primary, I suppose, directive to every single person that they're asking, any kind of question, is follow your true passion without any insistence of the outcome. And you can follow your true passion until you cannot take it any further. Basically, you are exploring the passion fully, and you're milking it. If it keeps going, you keep going until you cannot take it any further. Then that exploration is done, and there's going to be another passion arising. You explore that until that is done. And so that is, man, like from man perspective, to me, that's like a loyalty to the goddess, or loyalty to the god, if you will. And of course, as a man, you're shining your attention in the light, and as a woman, there's like openness. A woman, from woman perspective, she may be open to a passionate experience, and if she's open to the passionate experience, then the man is feeling that, and there's this mutual passion that's happening, if you will. But it doesn't have to be in a romantic sense. It can be in any other types of sense. It can be like, it can be business relationship. That passion, that light passion, is not sexual. It can be sexual, but it's like sensual. This is why you can feel that passion when you think about doing something, that's business related to one specific person, if you will. And so you feel that, okay, that's the one to do it. Okay, and there's going to be a very positive interaction because you already felt that that's where the white passion was leading you, and this is where you're going. Okay, this is very powerful because if you as a man ask this ultimate question, where all the ideal decisions are coming from, you'll see that it cannot come from the binary memory. It cannot come from the memory of your soul, mind, or body. It has to come from the spontaneous quantum that's generating ideal, uh, you know, decision that only comes when you play your cards right as a man, and then that guidance is given to you. And again, sometimes people say, follow your bliss, right? That's what Joseph Campbell was saying, follow your bliss. But he didn't say something very important, that the bliss is hiding behind the pain. He didn't say that, right? This is why it's very easy to misinterpret that and think that you follow your pleasure, which is dark passion. It's very different, and I'm distinguishing them because you can live your life following pleasure, chasing the dragon, that's dark passion, or you can live your life following your bliss. But the bliss is hiding behind the fear and behind the pain. This is something that he didn't say. Okay? And mostly from the man perspective, the duty is to overcome the pain. Mostly from the woman perspective, the duty is to surrender to the pressure, if you will, those two energies, right? Alchemies. I've talked about this before, okay, guys? It's just that I'm just using this word alchemy because normally the men were alchemists, right? Not the women. But the fact is that women are participating in this same process through devotion. And another word of saying jnana, bhakti, devotion, and alchemy. This is why jnana is alchemy. That's another word for it. And the Krishnamurti teachings were alchemical teachings. He just didn't use that word alchemy, but he used the word transmutation or mutation. He used other words. But what the principle that he was teaching is to put all your attention and all your energy on a source of your suffering or a source of discomfort, and stay with it, and just watch it until it and you is no longer separate, right? There's this type of dissolution that happens within you. That's the same thing happens when you, for example, in the presence of another person, and the same thing arises in you. Same principle. You can say, well, you're doing sort of like a exorcism on another person or whatnot. All these words that can describe other processes, but in the essence, that's the same thing. It's the same thing what he was teaching, and the same thing that's what I'm teaching. It's not really a teaching, but you see what I'm trying to say. It's just pointing where to look. Okay. Now, hopefully that brings a little bit more clarity. And as I'm talking, I can feel the energy building up. Get some hot cocoa. Okay. Now, if you, as a man, if you stay loyal to this white passion, and that's your only loyalty, and you can say you are loyal to the universe or whatever you want to say, right? You word it in your own personal journey way and your own story. You can word it, name it, anything you want to make it sound more cool, whatever resonates with you. But metaphysically speaking, this is the energetic process that's going on. That is correct. Okay? It's like if you never betray that white passion feeling, it will always guide you where it is, and it's okay. And you may find a brief moment with one person, sharing that moment in a deep connected way. That is right. It's going to be perfect. It's not going to create anything outside of what it is. It has its own organization and own connection there. This is why it's unique with every single person in the perfect way. And it's impossible to cheat on anybody if you follow this white passion energy. I've asked this question myself, like, what am I staying loyal to? And the answer is, like, you're not staying loyal to the woman because woman is a specific person. You have to let that woman walk into this white passion on her voluntary accord. But you as a man, you always stay loyal to this white passion. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. Okay? And therefore, world and reality is not this conquering ideas like I'm sole controller of the reality, this is what I do not agree with Neville Goddard, and I'm sure he would withdraw the statement and clarify it when he said that you're the sole controlling point of your reality, that everybody is you pushed out, he said, right? This is what he said. Everybody is you pushed out, which is opens the can of worms that says that everybody's playing the part that I'm scripting, right? This is the problem, because now you're going to this into being a puppet master, right? And so it is true that you can imagine somebody playing that specific role for you, right? As a role, but which person is going to come into that? It's not really up to you. So this is why it is true what he said, but it's not completely clarified. If you want to remain in the white passion, and the only way you're going to remain in fashion is if you do not force the outcome, and which means that you cannot insist certain specificities in your reality. Your soul desire will be fulfilled, and you're going to be fulfilling and you're probably going to be even fulfilled better than you imagine, because ego is always inferior to soul. Ego always insists, like, well, I want this in this particular way, right? And then you go dark and you're insisting now, and you are insisting on the outcome, and that's becoming a puppet master and going in a dark way. But if you don't insist on the outcome, and you insist, like, this is the quality that I want to experience, I need somebody to play this role in my life, this is what I want, and everybody who is right, and it has to feel right to me, it has to feel like it's right, and I'm open to this. And if somebody steps in and I feel this white passion in this particular interaction, that is the person for me to play with. Okay? Because there was this mutual agreement between the god and the goddess, so to speak. So therefore, that's the paradox, that from this tyrant of the universe to the guiding dance partner of the universe as a man. That is the difference. And one leads to the dark passion, another leads to light passion. Okay? So this is why you as a man, you just have to be concerned about your things. Do not insist on the specificity, and you let the universe to decide what that's going to be. What else can I say about this? Even the word grooming, um, yeah, you always groom, right? The alchemy, magic, and mind is a type of grooming. You always groom, just like some animals. Like I see the birds. They fly up to my little waterfall, and they use that water, and they clean their wings and whatnot. Like they're always grooming. The same thing with you. You're always grooming. You're always sharpening your saw, if you will, as a man. But that's all you can do. Okay. And this idea that, like, just because you're awesome at something like this, at anything, right? And that's one specific thing. And if it's not, somebody's not open to this, uh, going into this idea is like, how the fuck can you not be open to me? I'm the fucking shit. I'm trying to say, like, they go immediately in the ego and insisting on the outcome, and that's it, you lost. And then what you lose is the most precious thing, is you lose this light passion. This is why it's totally fine. Like, for example, the rejection does not imply any kind of lack in you. There's many different things of why the rejection may not be, the time may not be right. The person may not be right. There's many reasons of why it may not happen for you. But as long as you're just concerned with following your passion and performing the best way you can without any insistence of the outcome, I'm just saying, but it's the same thing what Shara is saying, is the shit. It really is the shit. It really is the shit. You see? And to finish this, I just want to say that if you follow this principle and you understand the difference that when people say women are like this, women are like that, and they talk about like woman, no, they're talking about the ego of woman. That's not woman. That's just this script that's been written there. And every woman, when she speaks from the ego, her soul is trying to tell you that, please destroy this part of me. This is what he's trying to say. Maybe destroy is too kind of harsh of the word, but get this out of me, kind of thing, right? And then everything becomes simple. It's very simple. A man of the soul will never have a problem or a conflict with the woman of the soul, and that happens after this alchemical and devotional process takes place. Okay, but if there is an insistence on any of one part, that either lack of courage or lack of surrender in this, it's not gonna happen. Okay, and you, as a man, you can't force it either. Like I said, I'm trying to just communicate something very important. It's like, at any point in time, you as a man, you be yourself, you present yourself honestly, authentically, and sometimes people call it vulnerable, but you're not vulnerable, you're being authentic. You just, what you feel, you communicate, without any fear of it being rejected, because this is your light. And if somebody's not open to this, because you walk through life in complete honesty and transparency, this is what should be happening, with no fear of any kind of rejection. But the reason you're not fearing any kind of rejection is because you understand the principle that you are scanning for the openness and wherever universe wants to play with you, and the way that it wants to play with you. And you're not seeing this as a rejection and a crash of the confidence. You see this as redirection to somewhere where it's something for you, and it's going to be the best thing for you. Okay? So, historically, men would make this mistake of becoming woman-centric and trying to derive their energy from one woman. This is why it's such an unstable thing, that if a woman has lack on devotion and have developed or engaging in ego, and she knows, or doesn't matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter if she knows or she doesn't, but if there is ego and she doesn't want to let that go, any man who's kind of clinging on that is lacking wisdom right there. Okay, so there's this like lack of love or devotion, and there's lack of wisdom or courage or alchemy, right? I'm just using the words. And so this is why the connection will not happen. Those two are necessary for the connection to happen. But if you're, as a man, you're ready and you have courage and you have alchemy and everything, you're shining your light, but you're not sticking to things that where there's no openness. Okay, I'm just repeating this thing over and over again, but I really want to drive it home because it's a big deal. This is why the difference, this popular word right now, like simping, right? Or whatever. It's just a new term for the same thing that men would always do in the past. And that's basically they would be attached to the ego side of the woman and leaking their energy. Okay? Now, at the same time, I want to say, if the goddess decides to come through from this particular woman and she becomes devotional to you and it's only from this person, and that's where the openness is for your light, then that's what it is. And for you to move your light in any other ways where there is dark passion or lessening of the light passion would be wrong. But if you don't feel that the light is flowing there and there's a closure there, then you gotta let the light flow. The light has to keep on flowing. This is what I'm trying to say. You can take the view that women sometimes like gonna block you, reject you, to fuck with you, right? Like to block your light, to crash your confidence and stuff like that. But you don't have to take this view. If you do take this view, then you get caught in this game. But if you don't take this view, you're saying, okay, it's all good, but my light has to keep on flowing. And so it puts responsibility on both sides. It's not true. It is absolutely not true that you take all responsibility as a man. It is absolutely not true. You take a lot of responsibility as a man. And like I said, you can train and be good and excellent at dancing, but you approach a woman, you invite her to a dance, and she decides whether she wants to dance with you or not. That is like a nice metaphor of what's really going on. And you can be the best in the world. And if a woman says no, then the dance is not happening. You go to dance with another woman who says yes. Or ideally, with whom you feel the most passion with. Okay? So that's the gentleman's way. And look, the world is like this. It's gonna take you on a journey, right? And it may not be that it's gonna take you one woman, is gonna be one woman for the rest of life. It may not be like this, right? This is like what I would call the witch's path. And in the witch's story, he slays the demon, and then he gets the girl. He slays the demon, he gets the girl. That's pretty much the patterns going on in that story, right? And then only at the end he slays the demon, got the girl for the time being. Then he slayed some other demons, got some other girls, and then he come back with the same girl that originally he met before, and then end up being together. That's the path of the Witcher. That's the natural flow of life. But there was no cheating on anybody. There was no betrayal of anybody at any point. He just followed the right path. And that led in the end to the woman that was right for him, but was at the right time and the right openness, because originally the same woman, I'm talking about Yennefer, she wasn't fully open to the thing that's going on, or what was going on. It wasn't time. He wasn't forcing it. He went on his own journeys and did his thing that he had to do, and slept with whatever you know, girls were there as a consequence of him slaying these demons and whatnot. And so the universe or the goddess came in that form, that particular time for him in that moment. Even though ideally there was a preference to come through that one particular woman in the end, but you see what I'm trying to say? That's what happened. And there's another story, like, more like an Aragorn story, where in his story, he wasn't sleeping around with anything. He just completely finished the war, and he got the girl that was always with him, connected through the whole time. But it happened at the end of the war. At the end of the war, right? That's the Aragorn story. And I don't know which story are you living, but if you follow your passion, your white passion, that's going to be revealed, right? Not to confuse with the dark passion. This is the only difference, Like, it's you'll never feel dark inside of you. You never feel like you did anything wrong as long as you keep on making sure that you're following this white passion. You don't betray that white passion, because that white passion might also be challenged and said that, well, some things from nature say, but this thing is wrong. But if you feel that is right, it is right. And it's very distinct. I've experienced both. I experienced the dark passion and experienced white passion. These are, the true masculine powers, by the way. And they're very distinct feelings. The intensity and the frequency of the white passion is, I don't know the words, but the dark passion has that, temporary kind of release, and then the crash, and it's not right. It just leads to really bad shit. So don't drop your path for some little meaningless trail, if you will. Okay? Follow your path. Follow your bliss, and know that it's hiding behind the pain. Okay? So that's my message for my fellow gentlemen today. I've covered the general tendency of what's going on in the Matrix world and how it's going to end. It's going to end in what they call one world order, but at the same time, there's going to be holistic villages in the world coexisting together. So that's the big scale. And on your own personal tribe, these are the guidance system, if you will, to use to build your personal tribe. And so as a man, you may meet a lot of people that are right for your path, but you may need to do a lot of internal chemical work for that connection to be real, with all the people in your tribe. Because essentially, you are building it. You must be building it as a man. Okay? And like I said before, the only war that you fight is in your soul. And it's not easy, it's there's things that you have to face, and the focus that you have to have, and the energy that you have to muster up. It takes, to me at least, it takes time to figure this out and understand all the different focuses that you could have. And it is a game, but that's the only war that you fight. Everything starts with the boundaries, of course. You set the right boundary. If something's wrong in your reality, you say, no, this is not right. And anybody who's challenging you and they have tantrums, you use all that fire, you use that energy, and you alchemize it. And only when you turn the fire into the light, then you take a decision. Okay? And then when you're going to take that decision, about that particular person or that particular boundary, it's going to be all right. And sometimes I have to say that sometimes you don't even have to do this. Once the alchemy is done, the person is already falling into place that is right. Okay? Okay? Anyway, if that just raised any kind of questions, you can ask them in the comments, and maybe then I could answer those questions and bring more clarity on this particular subject. But I just communicated the essential principles. That's all I did. Because it sucks to not to have this guidance system. It's fucking sucks, you know? You don't know what the fuck is going on. There's a confusion, and it's like, I don't know what the fuck is this. This is no. But when you make it all simple and you understand that, okay, you as a man, you're cultivating that light inside of you, and you are letting the universe to decide where that openness is. It's just like lightning strikes, but there's already magnetic openness in the air of what kind of shape it's going to do, right? That's, you live life like that. You just worry about building up the light, and then the way it's going to pattern, it's up to the universe. It's up to the feminine principle you're playing with. It's really freeing, actually, you know, and it doesn't block the energy of you as a man and your confidence. There's no way you can do anything wrong following this. You understand that the universe comes to you in any form that is necessary for you at that time. And if it's going to come as one person and in a total devotion to you, then that's what's going to happen. And if it's not, if it's coming through different people, then that's what's going on, right? Like, am I communicating correctly? That eliminates all this confusion. It's like, well, you know, am I supposed to explore this relationship or that relationship? No, this is all logic. You have to just feel where your passion is flowing. And if your passion is flowing this way, you keep on going that way. But if you feel this passion is already kind of blocked over here and it's not flowing, they must be flowing somewhere else. And it's okay to keep that passion flowing. That will set things right. If the person was kind of trying to use your light and you just kind of didn't want to respond and reciprocate, but take your energy, that's going to go away from your life, right? People are going to have to respect the game that you're playing, which you are playing, the white passion game. And your life must be play and not the drive, not the struggle, not the drama, not all this bullshit that these boring fucking lives that have been lived for thousands of years and thousands of lifetimes. And I promise myself that in this lifetime, I'm not going to live those fucking lives. You see? I'm just not going to fucking do this. I don't want a drop of this nonsense in my life. And like I said in the previous video, I acknowledge the fact that don't eliminate that most of the things that are not right in the soul are right in the body. Like this concept of submission is wrong in the soul, but it's not wrong. Submission and domination, right? It's wrong in the soul, but it's not wrong in the body. I mean, in sex, that is what's going on. You know, a female submission and a man domination. And in sex, in a physical expression, it's natural and this is how it's supposed to be. You see what I'm trying to say? So everything's in the right place. And this is the idea of everything that I'm saying. Put everything in the right place. And some people they can't do it. Like they say, like if they can only live by one principle. But no, what's right in the soul is different in the mind and different in the body, which I'm going to make another video about this subject. But that's what's going on. You see, because if a woman is submissive in her soul, in her heart, emotionally, it's a type of manipulation, actually, and then, and if a man is dominant in the soul, again, it's this type of friction-based energy that's being produced, the dark passion drama. What am I saying here now? Anyway, I was just clarifying that point, that what I'm saying, what is right in the soul, is not necessarily right in the body. Like even the use of force, and the use of power and strength and all that stuff, and is appropriate in the physical body, as a man. In fact, like, it's natural for a man, because you have a, human body. It's functioning, and it is very healthy for a man to engage in some sort of martial arts, some sort of fighting, some sort of resistance training, or whatever, because that's the masculine expression of the body. And the same thing for the woman. Woman is healthy to engage in some sort of flowing practices, like dancing and whatnot, and all these other types of practices that the body wants, and it's normal. And the body also, as a man, it wants to dominate a woman physically. That's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to do with emotional, though. And for a woman, of course, it's natural for her to be submissive in the sexual context. Okay. And hopefully that kind of clarifies things, because people talk about one thing as it's generalizing, but it's not like that, because our consciousness belongs to one kingdom and three domains. The one kingdom of the spirit, which can be either aeonic or archonic, the soul, the mind, and the body. The soul world is peculiar because it's half in the temporal, half in the infinite. And so whatever's going on there, it's unique for that. The mind world is also peculiar, because it is temporal. Mind only receives the patterns and the energy from the soul, but whatever is going to happen there, it's a finite system. Body as well, it's a finite system, and it has its own laws, its own drives, everything. Okay. By the way, I'm just going to mention something already, 133, but if it's long video, it's a long video. What can you do? I've looked at the willpower closely, and you know what the willpower is? Willpower is still a type of magic, because whenever soul splits into the mind and the body, it's the same soul energy split in the temporal reality of the mind and the body. Mind is kind of whatever imagining, envisioning. The body is actually visualizing. For example, right now, I'm moving my body, right? It's a type of visualization. This is what I realized. And it's no difference, for example, if I'm imagining something to do, visualizing, to do some specific thing in a specific way, I'm visualizing it, and I'm already using willpower, and I'm already writing commands for my body. When my body is going to do these things, it's just going to run the script, because the body motion is a visualization. This is kind of very apparent when you have out-of-body experiences or astral projections. You're still moving your body, but it's all visualization. There's no physical form anymore. You are just imagining that you're moving your hands and they're moving, right? But it's no different here as well. It's just pure. The will is a sort of magic. And the difference between imagination and will is that will is visualization, is a sort of visualization. And okay, the will is a sort of visualization, and the imagination All right, so to distinguish the two is like this. Mind is designed for the final outcome. You're already imagining the final outcome of the story or whatever. That's what the mind is. It's like, this is the outcome that I want. Because remember I said, don't insist on the outcome, in the world, in the physical world. Because physical world is not for that. Outcome is something that you imagine in your imagination. You already have a final outcome. When you have the feelings in your soul and certain type of image in your mind, without insistence on like too much specificity and whatnot, then you're already imprinting that final outcome. Now your system is going to be driving to that outcome. So the mind is man, the mind is a type of Google for goals, actually. You imprint that picture, and everything in the universe is kind of conspiring for that to happen. Okay? Now, but that's not the end of the story, because some people just imprint that picture and they say, well, it's done. It's not done, because there's visualization is important as well. Imagination, I'm separating visualization from imagination. Imagination is sort of like, you create the form, the outcome, and the picture starts moving by itself. It's filling it in, and it is like your intent is being animated and put alive. It's like you're not actually doing it. It is a response to your intent. That's the beauty of imagination, because it fills all the gaps. You're not insisting for this to look specifically like that. Is going to be the most beautiful thing that there is. You may say, well, I want to imagine what is my dream house, and so it's going to generate the dream house, and it's going to be perfect for you, because the feelings that you're going to have will be reflected there. Does that make sense? That's imagination. But visualization is something different. It's specific steps and outcome. This is what the will is being used. Will is a type of magical energy as well. I call it vitality. And that is what you have to do for that outcome to happen. Right? You're going to have to do certain things that you will need will for that outcome to happen. What these specific things are, they may arise you as it goes, but these are the specific things that you got to do. You got to think, okay, what are the specific steps that I'm going to have to do? Okay, I'm going to have to, buy the tickets, do this, like register this. You sometimes like, there's lots of things that you're going to have to visualize in order for that outcome to happen. It's obvious. I mean, I'm saying something that is obvious, but I'm not leaving anything out. And I'm not saying that alchemy is just enough, magic is enough, or just a might is enough. I'm saying they all work together. And I'm not leaving anything out. But I'm also not saying that, like, well, if you just go on the might and not really have this final outcome in imagination, this vision, that's going to lead you to this thing. No, you can be really good at this, and it's not going to lead you there, because you did not create it, the vision of where the universe must take you. You have to create that. Okay? And so that's the game. And it's very, look, I have to say again, like, it's very distinct of how the man is playing this game and how the woman is playing the game. It's so obviously distinct. The hero's journey and a heroine's journey is not the same at all. It's not like you take a woman and you put it in a man's position, and then you create like some warrior, woman, and so that's like, now a woman is playing the hero, the heroine is playing the hero. It's not the heroine. Heroine is not hero. Does that make sense? It's different. And we did not choose the gender. Ideally, generally, we did not choose the gender by accident. Now I'm talking about, of course, I'm not talking about just 3D, 4D, because over there it's just like everything's permissible and whatever the fuckery is going on over there. But at the soul level and the causal level, when you are playing that role from your soul, like I said before, your soul can be masculine or feminine. Why does it have to be? Because if your soul is incarnate in a dual reality, which it is, it has to skew from to the light or to the love. This is why my alchemy is building up a certain type of light in my heart, and if a woman is following her devotional path, it's feeling a type of love in her heart. We may approach it the same way, but what's going to end up in our soul is different, because it's going to match. It is matching the crystal that I built to the crystal that she. You see what I'm saying? Like, and there's nothing I can do, but it's not up to me. This is what's going to happen, and there's nothing she can do. She cannot create a masculine crystal in her soul, because it's just going to be ego, and I cannot create a feminine crystal in my soul, because that's going to be ego as well. How it is shaped, it will shaped. It will be shaped, right? If I chose to be masculine, plays the masculine role and the soul level, this is exactly what's going to happen upon all the things that if I do right, that's what's going to happen. You know, how my soul is going to be shaped after this game is done, it's already clear. That's why there's no ambiguity. There's no thing like, well, you know, like man's supposed to be this, woman's supposed to be that, and it's like, it's okay if a man does this. No, everything's already in the soul, and you can't be you see what I'm trying to say? Like, if I'm really honest, and the way I see it is the pure and complete alchemy of a man is 100% masculine soul. Whatever that means. That means that there's a relationship. You remain in the relationship of the feminine. It doesn't mean that you separate from the feminine, but it means that you are connected with the feminine, but you are not the feminine. That's what really makes the feminine pop out, because there's not a drop of femininity in your soul. Does that make sense? And that happens automatically whenever you say to no to ego, you know? Anyway, I've expanded too much on this anyway, but that's my message to my fellow gentlemen, and I hope you enjoy this message. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next one.